Most of these are records that I've gotten since Christmas. I'll start here with the Fu Manchu California Crossing demos. These are cool. It's cool to hear the California Crossing songs with a rougher mix, because on the actual album it sounds very polished and sort of not as fuzzy and blown out as a lot of the rest of their catalog. So it's cool to hear these with a rougher mix. It's got a rarity song called Planet of the Ape Hangers. It's a cool little touchstone to have for the Fu Manchu collection. I believe Fu Manchu just re-released California Crossing on vinyl, and it comes as a 3 vinyl set, and I'm pretty sure one of those records is essentially this album. I really wanted to get that set, but it was very expensive and I cannot afford it right now, so hopefully someday. Here we've got Lonerism by Tame Impala. After being a Tame Impala fan for quite some time, I finally got this one and Inner Speaker on vinyl. Still haven't gotten Currents yet, but it's nice to have these on vinyl. They sound way different on vinyl, in my opinion, and that's very cool to hear. I go back and forth between liking this one and Inner Speaker better, because this one has a very full sound, very kind of poppy sound, and right now I think I probably favor this one. This is another one of my favorite albums ever. This is Psalm 9, although it wasn't known as Psalm 9 at the time it was released. The first album from doom metal greats Trouble. Proud to be from the Chicago area, knowing that these guys are too. This album is a masterpiece. You cannot go wrong with this one. My little brother actually had this vinyl before me, and after pretty much begging for a long time, he sold it to me, and now it's mine, and I'm super proud to have this in my collection. It's a great album, and I have not seen another copy of it in any of the stores I've been in. Here's Galactic Melt from an electronic artist called Com Truise, who I discovered actually around the same time as Tame Impala. Com Truise is awesome. I think he's a bona fide legend in the retro wave and vaporwave communities, which I like them. I'm not super into any of the artists from that community, but I love it because it's a very retro, just sort of take your mind off of everything sort of music, and that's what Com Truise is to me. This is some sort of different edition than the original pressings of Galactic Melt. And interestingly enough, it is a double album, but it is played at 45 instead of 33. I thought that was interesting, rather than putting it on a single vinyl. Here is Born Too Late from the Mighty Saint Vitus, another Doom classic. This is a reissue. It's not an original. But it does not have the Thirsty and Miserable tracks on it, which I thought was kind of interesting. But this is a classic, can't go wrong with this album at all. And right here I have the original Thirsty and Miserable EP. This is an awesome EP. I'm glad that I have it. I found it in a record store in Chicago, and I bought it pretty much without hesitation. I love the cover of Thirsty and Miserable that St. Vitus does. I personally think it's better than the Black Flag version, because with a name like Thirsty and Miserable, you think sort of slowed down and doomy, and that's what their cover is. Here's Bug from Dinosaur Jr. This is a reissue. I have gotten super into Dinosaur Jr. over probably the past year to a year and a half. This is one of my favorite albums of theirs, but you know, I like Green Mind and You're Living All Over Me, and I really like their new one, Give a Glimpse of What You're Not. I saw Dinosaur Jr. With my girlfriend in March, and it was definitely the loudest and one of the best shows I have ever seen. I would definitely go see them again. And Jay Mascis has really become a major influence to me as a guitar player, just pretty much in every way. I guess you could say that's one of my end goals, is to be able to play like Jay Mascis. Definitely check out Dinosaur Jr. They're a wonderful band. This right here is the UK edition of Are You Experienced? It was a birthday present from my girlfriend, and I was astounded that she found this because I have never seen this version in a store, like, ever. You can tell it's the UK edition not only because of the cover, but because of the fact that this does not have Purple Haze, Hey Joe, or The Wind Cries Mary on it, which I thought was interesting. I didn't realize that the UK versions did not have those. So I thought that was pretty cool. It's cool to have more of a rare edition of the first album. This is the one and only album from a band called Jerusalem. This is a reissue on purple vinyl, which I'm not going to take out right now because the sleeve is really stubborn. This is definitely one of my favorites. A classic of the obscure 70s rock underground. Just super heavy. I'd say this is one of the more famous bands out of that scene because they had affiliations with Ian Gillan. He I think he produced their record, and he sort of had a hand in them getting signed and getting to where they were. They were, I think, somewhat decently known in Europe, but they never got past the point of releasing this one album, which is a phenomenal album. There's not a bad track on here. I also have the CD edition, which has a few bonus tracks. This is the first album from a band called Witch. This is on blue color vinyl. Another one of my favorite albums. This is probably in my top 10. This features Jay Mascis of Dinosaur Jr. on drums, which is his primary instrument. Well, his instrument before guitar anyway. Very raw, very 70s, very riffy. This is just an exceptionally heavy modern work, sort of keeping the spirit of that whole 70s underground heavy music scene alive. This sounds like it could have been released in the 70s. It's very retro, and I love it. Which has a second album called Paralyzed that I haven't listened to, but I'll have to give that a listen. Here's Inner Speaker. I have 2 copies of this by accident, but you know, you can never have too much Tame Impala. Great album. It's very interesting to listen to this and then listen to Currents and see like how far Tame Impala has progressed in just 5 years, pretty much 5-6 years. Where Currents is very poppy, 70s influenced synth sounding, this has a much more late 60s psychedelic rock feel to it. There's a lot more, I'm sure there's guitar all over Currents, but there's a lot more guitar that actually sounds like guitar. There's a lot more songs on here that are riffy as opposed to the newer stuff, and it's cool to hear. This is Fire by the Ohio Players. Last winter I tried to get some more funky albums. Wanted to expand the collection a little bit because I didn't really have any funk. And what's a better starting point than the Ohio Players? I was just trying to look for some classic funk albums, and this is one of the ones I found. And another one I found was Greatest Hits of Sly and the Family Stone. I first found out about Sly and the Family Stone because my mom would play them a lot when I was younger. You know, she'd play Dance to the Music and a whole bunch of other cool songs. Everyday People, things like that. So this is a great album. You know, I figured it'd be a good starting point for just getting the funk collection going. Still trying to find like some Kool and the Gang, Graham Central Station, things like that. This is the... No, they released another album. This is the debut album of a band called Fuzz. Absolutely in my top 10. This album is amazing. I found out about them because I knew who Ty Segall was from his solo stuff, and this album is just, it completely blows my mind every time I listen to it. If I had to pick one album that I would say is definitely faithful to the 70s underground heavy rock and, you know, just sticks with that formula, this is it, because it could have been released by one of those bands. It sounds that much like what those type of records sounded like, and it's just amazing. I love it. It's hopefully will be a classic and will endure over time, but there's not one track on here that isn't killer and isn't classic. If I could recommend one album for anybody to listen to, it may be this album. It's that good. Here's an album by a band called Britny Fox. Britny Fox sort of got its start, and they draw a lot of comparisons to Cinderella, because the guitarist was the original guitarist of Cinderella, and so they get a lot of comparisons made to them. If we're going album by album, I think I'd pick this album. You know, it's got the usual hair metal cheesiness and you know, generic music at times, but it's really, there's some great tracks on here, and I have a soft spot for hair metal, and I'm glad to have this album because it's not one that a lot of people know about. They'll know about Girl School, A Long Way to Love, but there's some gems on that album. And finally, we have my third copy of Kiss Alive. This was a gift from my girlfriend's uncle, so thank you to him. It's an awesome gift. I'm very honored to have this, that he would think of me and give it to me. It's got some inserts. Interestingly enough, it has the Dynasty poster and the Dynasty order form. So this is the third Dynasty order form I have and the second Dynasty poster. So now I won't feel as bad about hanging one up because I have more than one of them. I haven't given this a play yet, but judging by the looks of the vinyl, I'm sure it plays awesome. This might be the best copy I have as far as the quality of the vinyl. And, you know, you can never have too much Kiss. So that's it. Those are all the records I've got from the last update through now. Sort of been taking it easy a little more. Adulting gets in the way of the vinyl collection, but hopefully I'll be adding more and I'll have more to show you later. So thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you later.